Hello everyone. Today I have a different video for you today. I wanted to share my bullet journal and how I'm using it for work and how I have been trying to adapt it to make it work for me. If you're unfamiliar with bullet journaling, please see my link below, which will have the introductory video on what a bullet journal is. So I had this journal already in hand, so I didn't want to buy a nice Moleskine or Leuchtturm book. So this is a spiral bound Martha Stewart notebook, and it's about an A5 size. And so this is my first time trying a bullet journal, so I tried the basic concept with having the index, but I find that I don't really use this index very much. I don't come back to it as often as I would like. I end up just flipping to try to find the page of what I'm looking for, which I think for me, I mentally just need to do that process anyways. But there's my index. I tried this future log, and as you can see, it's blank mostly because I don't really plan that far ahead when it comes to work. So I'm going to be taking that out in my next journal. Here was my first attempt at goal tracking, which I have been using, just keeping track of the number of details I've been adding to our library, and here was my goal for the year. So I have been doing that, as you can see, as well as my bi-monthly goal here to publish a newsletter that I create. So that has been good, and so I put a little paper clip there to mark my page. And then here is my very first month of having the typical days listed on the left with appointments, and then I have this second page for tasks that have to get done just sometime this month, and then my little section down here at the bottom for my wins or good things that happened in January in my professional job. And so these so far have been working really well for me. I like these two pages the way they are. The only thing is now, a couple months in, I have the wins portion here and it's spread out, so I might have a spread to consolidate all the wins from each month all on one page so I could see what I got done in a whole year. So I think I'm going to be doing that next. This was my attempt of a tracker for a project I was working on, and as you can see, I didn't even fill it out at all. It didn't work for me. There was too much going on, and it wasn't that black and white, but it was a good test for me to try to make this tracker. So that didn't work. And here was my attempt at some dailies. So nothing fancy. Again, this is for work, but I prefer check boxes instead of just the bullets. I like seeing the check and seeing things done. So that has been working. I have a weekly meeting, and so I started keeping notes here, and I just separated each meeting because I'm not really taking a lot of notes during that meeting. And then what I did to help me find this page again, because it is a reoccurring thing, is I highlighted it in green as well as the page number, and then I went in my index and I highlighted it green there as well. So it was an attempt to make it easier to find that page, but again, I don't know, I just end up flipping to it anyways without using my index so much. But it's there as an attempt to try to make it easy to find. And then here's where it got interesting. I had a bunch of pages that were job specific to a project that I'm working on. And I found that it was hard for me to try to find what I was looking for and build on that particular project when maybe the next time I'm going to work on it was 2 or 3 days later. And then try to find these notes and sketches. So as you can see, I have sketches and things from a meeting, and notes from a meeting we went to, more sketches, and that's specific to this particular project that I'm working on. So to try to find that mixed in with all my other notes was a bit of a pain, and I felt unorganized when I went to the meeting and I couldn't find my notes for that project. So that made me adapt, and I ended up having a separate little Moleskine, this is the chapters notebook, it's really thin, for that particular project. I will flip through this really quickly to show you what is in this particular project specific bullet journal, so to speak. and I left the first page blank. I just put the title of the project with the basic general notes, and then I just transferred all my notes from that first bullet journal into this journal specific to this project. And I just used my ruler to make little lines as separators, but I was able to include all my sketches and meeting notes together in one place. And then as I keep going, I have more meeting notes and more meeting notes, as well as sketches. And then I am using still the bullet journal system to mark things off as I get things done. And then I do have a tracker here that I've been using for this particular project. So it's just nice to have it all in one place. Everything I need for this particular project all in one place, and it's neat and organized. And then I just put a little paper clip to mark where my next page is, since there's no page markers in this little chapter book. Now, the next thing I did was, because I had a second project going at the same time, I used the same chapter book, I just flipped it. So now I'm using the back side, upside down, to record my second project. So the second project, again, I put the title at the top, and here I listed the days of the month, similar to the traditional bullet journal system. And this I used as a tracker to keep track of how many hours I worked on this project on each day, so that I could get a grand total and see how many hours I worked on this job, and to see also when the due date was, because this particular job I had a very short time period to get it done, and so it was really key for me to see, first of all, where am I, and when I finished, that I actually finished early, and how long did it take me to finish this set. So this was a nice little tracker, and I think I'm going to do this for future projects to keep track of what I've been doing, what time or how much time I've been dedicating to each project, as well as to see critical deadlines and if I'm on track. And so again, same thing, I just have job-specific notes, questions, and sketches that go along with that particular project. I just put a paper clip here because that's the last page for that job. And then I have a third project starting. So I skipped a page, and now here's my third project, because that first project is still going, whereas that second project now is complete. So now I'm going to go into my third project, and it's going to start here. So that's how I've been tackling separate projects. I have them separate from my bullet journal, but I still have my to-dos for those projects listed in my bullet journal, and then any job-specific notes or sketches will go in that other book. So then I got back to my journal again, and I'm evolving a little bit, so I'm trying to keep those job-specific notes out of here. But if I do have job-specific notes, I do keep it in this book if this is the book that I have, but then I just transfer it later into that other book, which helps keep it neat, as well as I can edit some of the content if I need to as well. Now here's the second problem I had for work. I have an ongoing project of standardization that I work with, as well as maintaining our library data. So it's a database full of different parts and pieces that I have to maintain, organize, update, and things like that, as well as create new things, new standards for our company. So I had documentation started for a new task here that I was updating, but then again it got lost in my journal. So that came and introduced another chapter book. So this is another Moleskine chapter. It got a little dirty from my kitchen table, but this one is strictly for my library. So all I did was separate and have the different items that I'm tracking or that I'm adding to the library. And this is a perfect example. For each new item, there's 2 things I have to do for each of those items. And so sometimes I could do one without the other, and vice versa. Sometimes I don't have any of them done. And so I need to remember that I have to go back and track down this particular object and get these 2 things done before it's completely in our database. So this was a nice little way to visually see which ones are missing and which ones are complete in our database. So I have a few pages for that, and again I just put basic text and use my ruler to make some lines as a header. And then here is where, this is the log that I was trying to keep from here. I transferred it here and made it more organized because it is an ongoing list that will be updated as I keep on adding more. So that is my third bullet journal for work. So on back to this one. So this one I do just keep many notes as I go through the day. I carry this book with me when I'm meeting with people. If I'm on the phone, I take notes all in this book. It's a little bit of a messy notebook, but it works for me so far. So I was trying to use this little bar chart inspired by the boho berry to keep track of my time. And I like the way it looks, and it made sense to color coordinate because I was working on multiple projects, so I could see how much time I could dedicate to this particular project. And from 10 to 12 I'll work on that, and then from 3 to 5 I'll work on that. If I have a meeting scheduled, I can see that that time is already blocked out. So I liked that bar, but as I got going it just got a little bit too cumbersome to keep up with. But I did try it, and I like the way it looks. But the function, it didn't really help me like I thought it would to really use that time just for that. Because my son does homeschooling, and so he also interrupts me throughout my work scheduled day. So even though I may block out 2 hours to work on something, I don't really get a full 2 hours to work on it. So then I had to keep moving it and changing it, and it just didn't really work for me. I needed something more flexible, and that it was nice to look at. It just didn't help me stick to it, so to speak. It didn't help me stick to that schedule, even though I wanted to. So I do plan out my work in weekly time frames, so having a weekly to-do list made sense. So I tried that here, and then I tried the weekly spread of actually having each day spread out. I used my little time tracker with the colors to show what meetings I had, and then little to-dos. I tried to break it down from this list and see which day I was going to tackle each task. So what I found out when I tried it out this week was I didn't like having to copy this over here, and then when I got to my Monday page I had to recopy those to-dos onto here. So that was 3 times I was writing that same task. So I didn't like that part of it. And then also I found my nature was to start taking notes all here, and it was just too tight. And it just, when I was working on that day, I was looking on this page, so I started working on this page instead of going to my daily to sketch and take notes for that day. But I don't know if I'm going to carry this over into my new journal because it's just not functional for me. I don't like copying things over so many times, and even though it looks pretty to me, it just wasn't functional. Also, because of the spiral bound, I typically have my book open like this. And so I look at things one page at a time, so I miss that whole overview sometimes. And that's just because of the type of notebook. And by habit, a spiral notebook, I almost typically always fold it over. So that's another kind of drawback to this. You don't always get to look at it as a spread, like a typical Moleskine. And then I decided I'm going to break down the weekly to-do, maybe in this view. I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with my appointments here so that I can get that overview that I got here. But instead of a 2-page spread, it just be a little chunk right here. I kind of like that idea. So too, I could see at a glance what days are busy or not. I will be setting up my new bullet journal in the next video because starting in April, I'm going to start a new book, an actual Moleskine that I have. And see if that changing the style of book makes a difference, as well as a little bit of this pre-planning of what my spreads will look like, and see if I can get my book to be a little more functional. So thanks for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you'll join me in my next one. Bye!